Okay, looks like we are now live on YouTube. And good evening. Thank you everyone for joining us for our 6th online public participation session for the District of Seashell. Okay, let me mute myself on YouTube, which is going on my other screen. To date, we have reviewed presentations on operating and capital budget requests for all of our departments, including the external organizations we fund, Sunshine Coast Tourism, RCMP, and the Seashell Library. This will be our final evening public participation session for the 2021 budget deliberation process. And we will have one final public participation session at noon on Tuesday, April 6th. So that will be to cover any topics that were introduced at our March 31st special committee of the whole meeting coming up this Wednesday at 3 p.m. So we encourage everybody to follow along with that meeting or watch the recording later and bring any questions you have on April 6th. For today, we will start with an overview of the presentation from the March 24th Committee of the Whole, and that included the capital requests and one-time operating as well as new operating requests. Looks like on the line today, we have our mayor, some of our councilors, Director of Finance, David Douglas, our Finance Manager, Beverly Smith, our HR Manager, Lindsay Roberts, and several members of the public. Thank you everybody for joining us. And with that, I will turn it over to Director Douglas for his recap of last week's Committee of the Whole presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Polson. I'm just going to share my screen here. So we're going to go through the PowerPoint presentations that we went through last Wednesday. This meeting was really about mostly about capital and human resources. We have the big theme really this year is that we have applied for a lot of grants. We have received a lot of grants, and there are still projects that are applied for that we haven't heard from whether we got the grant. So, you know, it's been a very busy fall and winter time applying for grants and being successful. It's just going to make for a very busy construction year for the District of Seashell. And we're happy to move the community forward on quite a few initiatives this year. So on my first slide here is we divide the general operating capital into 8 different areas: vehicles and equipment, parks, community infrastructure, facilities, airport, information technology, drainage, roads, and then sidewalks and walkways. And of course, when we're talking at this point of the year, we're really focusing on the first year of the 5-year financial plan, so that would be 2021. We are budgeting for $577,000 of vehicles to be purchased, park improvements and community infrastructure of just over $2 million. Facilities is $7.2 million. Airport, $3.1 million. Information technology, $35,000. Drainage, $443,000. Roads, $3,400,000. And sidewalks and walkways, $5,243,000. So as we go forward here, we're just going to focus on the 2021. Now, this is just a summary of the funding sources for the capital I just went over. And as you can see, the total here is $22,239,000. And when we go to the funding page, it also equals that $22,239,000. So capital reserves, we're looking to spend 2.1 million. Development cost charges, drainage, you're looking at 267,000. Development cost charges, parks, you're looking at 298,000. And development cost charges, roads, 1.8 million. Gas tax reserve, 1.3 million. Grants and contributions, and this is kind of what I was saying at the beginning there. 11,632,000. The BC Safe Restart COVID grant, 162,000 so far. We have to add a few projects to this list from a motion of council that was recently approved. MFA financing, 3,225,000. Public safety reserve, 330,000. Public works yard reserve, 835,000. And the reserve for committed expenditures, 104,000. So this is a listing of the current year's projects under the vehicles and equipment. And we have one vehicle left. We're waiting for it to arrive from last year, which is the first item, project number 0085. This is a single axle dump truck. It was, we did put the PO out last year, and we're anticipating the truck to come in the next month and a half. Project number 88, utility vehicle for parks from the capital reserve, 32,000. And then the next three are vehicle replacements. So you have 89, 90, 91, 92. Those are all vehicle replacements. One's a trailer replacement. And the last one is a visitor information vehicle coming from the BC COVID grant. So once again, just a summary of the funding from the vehicles and equipment. I don't intend to go through each capital item one by one, but we're going to highlight some of the bigger ones, the ones that we have been successful at getting grants on, and ones that are going to make the biggest impact on our community. So we have a host of projects here, this under parks and community infrastructure. Two or three of the projects that will have a major impact here. We have the Cactus Park outdoor stage, and that is a $253,000 project, 185,000 coming from grants, and the rest we're having to fund out of capital reserve. We under project 7446, tourism dependent communities, we applied for $1 million, and although we didn't receive the whole million, we did receive just over $800,000 of that, and we just heard recently about that, and actually there's a press release today outlining the projects we got there. So we're very excited, and once again, there are one of the projects here is also at Hackett Park. One of the projects is on the waterfront, and so we're really excited. And yeah, that would be the highlighted ones for the parks and community infrastructure. Once again, just a summary of the funding and sources. Once again, if you take a look, the grants and contributions are a large number there, $1.49 million. We're on to facilities now, and a couple of the bigger ones here is the Public Works Yard, Public Works Building for $3.8 million. We just recently went through an alternative approval process, which allows us now to go ahead and borrow up to $3 million for this project. So you can see that funding sources here are $3 million from MFA financing and $835,000 from the reserve. Couple other ones that we want to mention here. We have the Rockwood Lodge. We've applied for a grant for $234,000, and we were awarded that grant. And so there's numerous upgrades if you want to do that facility. And once again, we're very pleased to be able to improve this building so more users can utilize this facility. And once again, just a quick view of the funding for these projects. And if you once again look at the third item down, 2.9 million of grants. And there's the MFA financing for the office building, the $3 million in the middle. Airport expansion. Once again, a very big project that we've got underway this year. We have applied for 2 grants. It's like a phase 1, phase 2. They've been rolled together into a grant for a project total of $3.1 million. The grant that we were given was to the tune of $2.2 million, and that's to extend the runway and to repave parts of the existing facility. So once again, we're very excited about this project. Under information technology, we have there's some equipment that we want to replace here in our main center. That's to the tune of $35,000 being funded from the capital reserve. And we have under drainage a couple projects. Trail Avenue Storm Trunk Line for $5.9 million. This project is underway and is partly finished. So you'll see that the funding sources are so it's a multi-year project, started this year, or started in 2020 and will end in 2021. And Cook Creek Culvert on Ridge Road for $175,000. So those are the 2 drainage projects. Under roads, we have several things going on here. We have a culvert replacement up on Ridge Road that we like to do. Finish off Trail Avenue on phase 1. Once again, that project is underway. Paving program, we suspended our paving program last year, and so we're going to do a little bit more. We're planning to do more paving this year. Kind of a bit of a catch up. It'll take us 2 years to catch up what we didn't do last year, and we're happy to do that. We have applied for it, but we haven't heard back yet on Trail Avenue Phase 2, and that will be from Anchor to Turnstone. So that's also in the works, but we're waiting to hear on that. So the projects that we have applied for grants and we haven't heard back, we will not be starting those projects, and then we will start them once we are successful, or if we're not successful, those projects will not be started. Here's the funding sources for this one, and as you can see, we're heavily relying on this area for the development cost charges and roads and capital reserve. Under the sidewalks and walkways, we have a number of projects underway. We have Wharf Avenue, Howry Dolphin, a little bit of design work to finish off, and then it's a $685,000 project. Once again, got a nice grant there as well for District Received for $650,000. And we have one project here, pedestrian control walkway crosswalk on Derby Road. That was a project that we started last year, or was in our works for last year, but didn't get started, so we'll do it this year. BC Bike Lane grant, Reef Road Shoal Way. We had started that last year, and it continues this year. Once again, sizable grant. You know, we're very surprised, or not surprised, but very happy because we be the recipient of so many grants. It really helps keep our taxes in check. It keeps you know, the community progressing forward, and we're very happy with that. Then we have pathway improvements, Trail Bay Boulevard. We applied for a grant for $600,000. We haven't heard back on this one yet, and so we'll just be positive on this project over here. And another project that we just recently applied for was this one called West Seashell, West Porpoise Bay, East Porpoise Bay Active Transportation Network, the $3.2 million grant. We should hear fairly quickly on this one. And another one that we're excited about is widening the roads for bike lanes and improving the walkability of the community. And once again, funding sources for the sidewalks and walkways. So that was the general operating capital. Now we're going to jump into sewer capital. And our sewer projects are divided into sewer regular projects and septic projects. And we have a number of each this year. Focusing on 2001, we have $2.2 million of sewer projects and $678,000 of septic projects for a total sewer project of $2.9 million. And this is the summary of the funding sources for these projects. Development cost charges, $252,000. A little bit of tax, gas tax, reserve money, grants and contributions, $638,000. MFA financing, loan for $350,000. And then the septic reserve, $678,000. Sewer capital reserve, $189,000, and sewer user fees of $632,000. So this is a list of the projects. We have the first one, 2340, is the Wakefield lift station. For $870,000. We've applied for a grant. We had applied for this grant some time ago, and we had hoped to hear by now, but we still have not heard. Last time we sought information on this grant, they were reviewing all the applicants. So that was just within 3 weeks ago that we were asking. So this is still an active grant, and so we're hoping to get this one, and we'd be very excited if that happens. Trail Avenue Forest Main, once again, it's a multi-year project. We started it in 2021 and continues. We started in 2020 and it continues in 2021. Just a small amount left to go on that. Couple of the other notable projects here, the Water Resource Center Chemical Storage Facility for $350,000. It's an important part of the infrastructure that we need to have over there at the Water Resource Center. And we have a few of our maintenance holes. We used to call them manholes, but they're called maintenance holes that need to be replaced. And so we have a couple of projects dedicated to upgrading these because the assets are failing at this point, or starting to fail, and they need our attention right away. And a quick review of the funding sources for those capital projects. Once again, the grants here, $638,000. septic area. We have three items here. We have solids, septic solids drying up out at the Dusty Road facility, and we need to dispose of those. So that's number one on our project list for this year. Septic closure plan or plans for a septic receiving area there. We need to, we have a lease on that land from the province, and we don't have that lease forever. I believe it ends at 2031, so we need to start planning for what is next for septic here. And we have a leaking roof up at the Dusty Road for 28,000. On last Wednesday, we also reviewed one-time and ongoing costs, new ones that are going to hit the budget this year for both the general fund and the sewer fund. And so these projects here listed have been previously given a go-ahead by council to include them in the budget. And in a couple of cases, we've acted on the item already. And so that's $246,000. And the funding that we've identified here, 136,000 for taxation, 34,500 from the PC Safe Restart COVID grant, and 74,000 from the public safety reserve. Here we have several one-time and a couple of ongoing projects here. So our website overhaul for $100,000, that was just approved, so it didn't make it up on my list yet of moving forward on, but that's one that will be moving forward. That's being funded from the BC COVID Restart funds. And then other projects that haven't been given the go-ahead yet, or one-time costs that haven't been given the overhead yet, or given the go-ahead yet, are a needs assessment and feasibility study for cultural facility, community art for 15,000, Hackett Park tennis court resurfacing for 24, district-wide transportation study for 200,000. A few items at the Rockwood Lodge that would make it easier for renting and community use. Mission House, same thing, a couple items there. And of course, prior to last year, we had been starting to accumulate a capital reserve, which was a cumulative 3% added each year. And so we got away from that last year, but we desperately would like to return to that, to have reserves to spend on the necessary capital items that come to our community. And the last item there is we've been asked to provide a one-time to the Salmon Enhancement Society for $50,000 to drill one. So we will still need to be making decisions on most of these items. These ones are ongoing. Most of these are new ongoing costs that we need to. Oh, this one is sorry. That's the sewer fund, and this would be for the sewer treatment area for the most part, or collections. And we have a number of items here adding up to $249,600. And the highlights here would be the maintenance here. Most of these are maintenance items, and although the Water Resource Center is still fairly new to us, it's 5 years old. We are still getting used to know what the things are that need attention the most. And so the things on this list are those, the things that we have over the last couple of years determined that these things need to be annually funded, or they need to have annual attention to them. Otherwise, they will not last as long as you were hoping they would. And so it's really what they would call preventative maintenance, or getting ahead on our maintenance. And then for the septic area, a couple items here as well. We have trying to rebuild plan, contingency for the sewer area, and a part-time operator for a total of 48,700. So once again, most of these are all ongoing and go out for a number of years or forever. So here's a short list of some one-time sewer costs that we would like to add it to the budget this year. Structure support for lifting capacity for centrifuge. This is basically just beefing up our lift that we have in the Water Resource Center. We have had to replace one of our multitask compressor units this year, and so that shows up here as a replacement. And a few other more minor items. We're trying to, become, up on all our health and safety items. So we're looking for a safety tripod hoist system. We have several locations where we have to lift people down to, or have them hooked up to a tripod, and so we just need to refresh our tripod in this area. So I'm going to stop for a moment, and we're going to transfer the share screen over to Lindsay, I believe.
Pardon me, Director Douglas, might be a good time to pause for any questions from our Zoom participants today.
Certainly.
We haven't received any questions via email just yet. However, we are happy to open it up to the floor if any of our Zoom participants wanted to raise their hand or unmute themselves and speak a verbal question. You can also type your questions into the chat if you prefer. We can read them out that way also. No questions popping up. Back to you, Director Douglas.
Okay, thank you. Lindsay, are you there?
Sorry, it's
all right.
A bit dark in my surroundings since this started. I will just share my screen now to do the presentation from last Wednesday. All right. This is the Human Resources Staffing Request PowerPoint. So first, we're starting off with the administration org chart. So this is the 2021 projected organizational chart. So again, this is just what our hope is in our asks, and you'll see this for each of the departments. So for the administration, we are looking to add an executive assistant for 2021 that would be shared with human resources as well as the CAO, who is currently mostly without an executive assistant. In 2022, we would be looking at a deputy corporate officer that would report into the corporate officer as part of a succession plan. We'd be looking at an administrative assistant for communications, as well as an HR assistant for human resources. And that would be because the executive assistant would no longer be just for mayor and council. That executive assistant would report to the CAO and mayor and council and no longer be a part of communications. And again, that would be because communications would have an admin assistant. In 2023, we're looking at the potential of an occupational health and safety officer. This is not, this is a big maybe for the HR department. And it's because right now we are using a consultant, Orca, which is from Vancouver Island, and they will be helping us with all of our OH&S needs this year. And we're hoping to get up to a place where we can manage OH&S on our own. And so by 2023, we'll be able to see if that's possible. And if not, we'd be looking to hire an OH&S advisor, much like our coordinator, much like other organizations of our size. So nothing in 2024 for the administration department. Division. However, the director of corporate services would be in addition for 2025. And that would really change things for the CAO's reporting structure, as right now the CAO has a corporate officer, communications, and HR reporting to them. And this would eliminate the reporting structure of the communications and corporate officer to the CAO and add a fourth director. And so there would be a director of corporate services, and then HR would be still continue to be standalone. And for engineering in 2021, we're looking at some summer students who applied to for 2 grants for the summer students. And we're also looking at asset management, and then our number 1 priority for 2021 for engineering is a project manager to handle the almost 30 projects we have on the go with the District of Seychelles. For 2022, that's the project manager still. Let's see. And I'll move on to 2023. 2023 is an engineering training, so that's a succession planning role. We would still have those summer students, and the engineering training would be part of a greater plan to then, when we're moving into 2024, be part of the that same track of engineering technologist, and then be part of that engineering department. In 2024, we're also looking for a GIS technician that reports into the asset management technician. And an asset management technician that reports into the engineering planning manager for 2025. And then we're moving on to the next slide would be Parks, Public Works and Water Resource Center, which I recognize is also within engineering. However, we're going to do an overview for the 5 years here. So for wastewater, we're looking at a wastewater operator, which would be part-time, and then a casual as well, just to help with some of the overload of work that they have there. They're running short currently and can use the support. In Parks and Trails, we are looking for a parks labor, which is a parks maintenance position, and an arborist, and then a casual laborer. So you'll see at the end of this presentation that we've put in our priority to have the maintenance person come in first. And that's part of a agreement that we have with FCRD to be able to share resources. And so for us to be able to do that, we need the people power to make sure that we have the ability to run the machines and to get the work done. So this maintenance person would be able to fulfill that agreement that we have with the FCRD and also make sure that we are getting what needs to be done. The arborist position is to support the lead hand arborist, who is also supports our manager of parks. And then manager of roads, drainage, and utilities is looking for another equipment operator. This, again, much like the Water Resource Center and Parks and Trails, all of these departments are running short. And in my presentation next week, will be a larger conversation on how we stack up to other organizations and what we need for our community to fulfill the needs that are requested of us and the manpower or people power that we need to do that. And the planning and development department organizational chart, vision, I keep saying that term incorrectly, my apologies. And we have a casual building official, and a clerical technical support for 2021, as well as a development planner. And again, as I mentioned in the engineering presentation, we will be looking at the prioritization of this at the end of this. In 2022, they're looking for a clerical and building official to be full-time in the building department and a manager of long-range planning. 2023 is when we would be looking to add an additional bylaw officer. And here we go with our final one, which is finance. And for 2021, we're looking for an administration float. So the majority of our administrative assistants live within the finance department. And so we are looking to add one so that they can help out interdepartmentally to all of the different groups. So that is the priority for finance for 2021. For 2022, we're looking for a systems analyst to live in the IT area, and we would have them report into our manager of information technology. And then in 2023, so currently we have accounts payable and payroll as one role, and that role is currently needing support. So this would ideally be another 2021 ask, like most of these annual asks that we're looking at. But in 2023, we would be looking to separate out accounts payable and payroll, as well as add a procurement officer. So looking at the 5-year projection, again, this list is entirely prioritized based on the different needs from the various divisions. So for 2021, our number one priority, as you've seen tonight through Director Douglas's presentation, we have a lot of projects on the go, and we're looking for an engineering project manager. Then an asset management, GIS technician, senior development planner, CAO, HR executive assistant, building clerical, engineering summer student, RCMP community safety coordinator, parks maintenance, administrative float, and then our 2 wastewater roles. And then the following columns build out the years that we just spoke of. And then these would be the financial implications for the 2021 additions. So we'd be looking at a total of 357,913, and sewer would be around 55. This includes the benefits for the role. That's it for me.
Thank you, Lindsay. Were there any questions from the floor on Ms. Roberts' presentation for staffing? I'm just going to find my participant screen. There it is. Just looking for any hands that might have been raised. We currently don't have any new questions in our email inboxes. And seeing none, I would like to, oh, sorry, there is one. They're coming in fast now. Excellent. One from Connie Jordison of the local. Has sharing of an arborist position among the Seashell, SCRD, Gibsons, or First Nation, or contracting for this service been considered?
I can speak a bit to that, and it looks like maybe Director Dillon can as well. I know that all of the various organizations are speaking, and so this is something that we're looking at. And with all of the staffing roles, we will be as creative as possible. And already this list is quite creative. I know compared to other organizations, the 2025 ask is really where we should be at. And so as from an HR perspective, we're just trying to get us there. And so for the arborist, that would be something to consider. Also training opportunities within, but then again, making sure that we're covered for our parks. So it certainly is an option. And really this position is to help out so that our parks manager has support when the lead hand is helping out with that role.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Roberts. We did have a question previously related to Director Douglas's presentation. Maybe we'll just jump back to that before we continue with the final presentation recap for the night. Will the district proceed with the Wakefield Road lift station improvements this year, even if the grant is not approved?
we really want to hear from the grant, because I would hate to have to build that on either borrowing or tax or user fees, and then we get awarded the grant later, so we are waiting for the grant. So once we hear from the grant, we will make our next plans to do that project. But if we hear either way from the grant this year, this project will go ahead. So if it's a no for the grant, we will come back to council with different funding sources and get this project underway. And if it's yes for the grant, obviously we'll move forward.
Okay, thank you. We do have one more question. It relates to Director Douglas's presentation as well. Some grant amounts were changed during the last committee of the whole, and according to Mr. Douglas, some will change again before the final budget is approved. I think it would help both council and the public understand the grant amounts more clearly if we could have a listing of capital projects funded partly or in whole by a grant and the corresponding funding required by DOS taxes on one spreadsheet. Director Douglas, any comment on that? My initial feeling would be that's a really big spreadsheet for sure. I think we have so many projects on the go, and the current capital listings do demonstrate which portions of those projects are to be funded by grants. I'm not sure if you have some more.
We have internal documentation that tracks, we're tracking grants and applications. But when we're presenting to the public, we try and group them in like projects. So if it's airport related, they're going to be together in airport. But there would be pretty hard to show them all in one document, although our capital is in one spreadsheet, but it's quite a long spreadsheet, and we are summarizing it the best we can at this point. My first two slides shows it in very summarized form in one sheet. And now, why are the project numbers changing a little bit? Well, we've applied for $1 million for tourism related dependent grant. We did not receive it. We just heard today that the awards came out. So now we just received just over 800,000. So I will go in before we adopt the budget, and we will reduce that $1 million to the number that we received, and we will carry that forward through the 5-year financial plan. So that is why some of the numbers will change as we hear things as we go forward.
Thank you. We can also reach out to this member of the public who is a community association member, perhaps after this meeting, for some clarification on the details that she may be looking for. Any other questions from the floor at this time? I'm not seeing any in our email inboxes. Currently, we have 2 watching live on YouTube.
Okay.
Okay, back to you, Director Douglas.
So we continue. We have just one more section to go. We also, after we went through the capital and the one-time and ongoing costs, we just reviewed the reserves and that the district has, and showed council how it works, how the numbers fall out with the capital that we've identified so far, and the identified funding sources. So we do have under our capital reserves. So in the agenda package, we had quite a number of reserves that we reviewed. But in my PowerPoint presentation, there was only 8 or 10 that we stepped through. And the first ones here are capital reserve. And on my screen here, I have capital reserve option A and capital reserve option B. And this was for discussion with council for purposes of discussion. Last year, we transferred $770,000 into this reserve. And that was the same number we transferred in 2020. The intention originally was to transfer 957,000 in 2020. But because of COVID, we decided that we weren't going to continue the 3% cumulative transfer into the capital reserve. But it is really important, as you can just see on these two sheets, there are these two options, that it's really important that we do get back to that. If we go with the capital plan that we've got here and we don't increase the 3% this year, from the 770 to the 957, or I guess I've got just over $1 million down below. You will see that in 2023 that we will not have enough cash to cover from the reserve to cover the intended capital projects. And further in 2024, it does not work. And so if we get back to the 3%, which is in option B, so we would then, our additions would be $1 million this year, just over $1 million this year, and then 1.25 million next year. And as you progress through the years, you can see that the capital plan can be funded from the capital reserve, as you know we would like to have. So this was intended to be for discussion purposes, and we still will have to decide on that 3% cumulative to the capital reserve. Just wanted to show council that we have two new reserves that we made a motion we have under bylaw. The affordable housing reserve, which we transferred 147,000, and the community amenity reserve, which didn't receive the funding last year, but we are now starting to split any amenity contributions to both the affordable housing reserve and the community amenity reserve. The other one that we wanted to show council specifically was the community works fund reserve, which is our gas tax reserve. Opening balance for this year is sitting at $1.25 million. We have a planned addition of 507,000. Since preparation for that meeting and the meeting on the Wednesday, we had received, there was a press release from the federal government that said that they're considering doubling the gas tax transfers to municipalities this year. So what that means to us is we would be receiving just over $1 million this year, potentially. There is nothing firmed yet, but that was the release in the news article that we had seen just in the last few days. So, you know, once again, I mean, we're getting close to having to pass a budget, and more and new information continues to come in. And so, you know, our last version that we passed through to council for approval needs to be, you know, it needs to be right on what we know to the minute, basically. So until we hear for sure this is happening with the community works or gas tax money, we'll leave this at 507,000. And then we just reviewed DCCs, the sewer DCC, the drainage DCC, the roads and parks DCCs. Once again, we have a number of projects over the years that we're planning to fund from the sewer DCCs. As you can see, I have no income totals in here as of yet. You know, we received, I think it was just over 120,000 last year in total for all the DCCs. So, you know, that wouldn't make a huge difference to the balances in these accounts at this point. these development cost charges or income from development cost charges are all dependent on development. So even though we have, 5 or 6 developments in the community that look like they're going to go, if something changes for those developers, then they won't go. So, it's hard to rely on getting that money when we don't know what the market's doing, what the developers are going to do. So, staying on the safe side, I would rather estimate a lower number or not at all. We thought last year was going to be a better number, but, it ended up being just over 120,000 for all the DCCs. And so, yeah, that's all. We watch this very closely year to year. And as you can see, quite a big activity planned from the DCCs over the next number of years. And obviously, if the DCC money or development cost charge funds don't come in, then some of these projects will have to be funded from other sources, like grants or taxation or user fees, if they need to be done. And so it's very important that, development does occur, but it's also important that it's done smartly. So. And that's all I have for my presentation. So if there's any further questions.
Thank you, Director Douglas. We do have one more question. I believe this one's directed to Ms. Roberts, again from Connie Jordison of the local. If the 400,000 or if the approximate 400,000 is the prorated amount for new positions, what would be the full year costs for all the requested new 2021 positions come 2022?
Thank you for the question, Ms. Bolson. I will let Director Douglas fill in the blanks, but to say it in more sort of general terms, it'll almost be nearly half. So we are looking at hiring for the roles with half the year gone. So the question being asked is correct. It is a prorated amount.
So the 457 is about half of what the full year's cost would be. So close to 900,000.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions from the floor? I'm not seeing any coming through on our email at this time. However, looking at some themes of common questions we do receive throughout the year, it may be interesting for the public to learn a little bit more about how do we decide which drainage and road projects are selected to be a part of the annual maintenance programs each year. I know we have assessment reports that are conducted regularly on that. Director Douglas or Director Dillon, would either of you be able to speak to that?
Yeah, hello. We do have a McElhaney report on our whole payment condition of all our payment assets, and we use that to guide our work. But oftentimes it's response-based. So if we go out and do some inspections in springtime, and if there's additional issues that are identified during those inspections, then we will respond and add them to the paving program for that year.
And is that also the same process for drainage projects?
Yeah, drainage projects, we don't have a report for right now. We're working on that. So it's just whatever our public works see or gets reported to us by citizens. Based on that, those observations will come up with projects that address those. So we're hoping to move to a more system-wide drainage asset management plan, and we do have some LiDAR data and survey data that's going to facilitate that in the future. But for now, it's really based on the eyes and ears of our public works crews that are out there every day.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from the floor? I'll just go back to our chat. I'm not seeing anything new come through our email inboxes. We've got about 5 minutes left in our session this evening. We have heard a few other just sort of general questions and comments. I can definitely share some of those unless any of our counselors or mayor wanted to highlight any items or ask any additional questions that you didn't get a chance to ask at the committee of the whole meeting.
Council, anybody? Did
All
you
their
ask all your
questions.
questions?
They've all been answered.
There's one here that has come forward. This is around the Rockwood and Seaside. So I know initially we were talking about doing a lot of work at Rockwood using taxation. And then we applied for that heritage grant and received it. So in the documentation, there are actually two categories. And I think we talked about this prior to our, or just at our last budget meeting. Some of the work that's going to be done at Rockwood is covered off by the grant, but then there are other pieces that aren't. So was it capital and more, I don't know, like blinds and different things like that that weren't covered? What is covered? There's a whole bunch of like roof and painting and all kinds of different things, but I don't recall what all those things were. Oh, and Julie showed up. Miss Rogers.
Good evening, Mayor Seegers. Yes, I can answer that question. So the grant that we applied for Rockwood was a heritage grant, and therefore it covers upgrades to the building itself and not for the other bits and pieces. That grant covers, we currently have 2 washrooms off of the main entrance and another small washroom off the kitchen, but they share a wall. So that grant will cover turning those 3 washrooms into either 2 washrooms and an accessible washroom, or 1 washroom and an accessible washroom, depending on the space that we have to do that conversion. And it will also include the items that we need to convert the kitchen into a commercial kitchen for our local businesses and artisans to use. And it covers the refinishing of the hardwood floors in the dining room and the hallway. The other bits and pieces that you saw on the agenda were, if I remember correctly, we were hoping to get blinds for the dining room. There are no window coverings, and because we want to monitor in there so people can have meetings, they need to be able to close the blinds so they can see the screen. And oh, and in the basement of Rockwood, we would like a mount so that we can have a projector so that people can have presentations in the art space downstairs.
All right, thank you. It's gonna be a nice facility when that's done.
Oh, I'm sorry. Speaking of nice facility, the other piece I forgot to the building is it has a cedar shake roof. Because it's a heritage building and it is ready for a new roof, it has to be replaced with a cedar shake roof, which is really expensive. So we are thrilled that we can re-roof that building with the same for same, and we will be repainting the outside.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other final comments from the floor? We've got 1 minute left. I'm not seeing anything new in the chat, no new emails. Any final comments from staff or members of council?
I think staff have done a great job in pulling all these bits and pieces together. I know last fall when these grants were coming out and we had really quick turnaround times, did an amazing job in getting those applications in. And now we're hoping to have them come in a timely manner so they can actually show up in the budget. But I know today we just had an announcement. So all of those kinds of things means Mr. Douglas has to continue to go back into the budget and change the numbers. But what I really like about all this is, yes, this is a lot of work on the part of our staff, but all the projects that we're looking at moving forward, because we got the grants, we get to do the work that needs to be done without actually having to go to our local taxpayers and have them pay that through their taxation. So thank you for all the work staff have done behind the scenes on this.
And thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Thank you our presenters, Director Douglas, Ms. Roberts. And I hope everyone can join us again for our final public participation session on Tuesday, April the 6th. That will be at noon. All the details are available on our website, cshelp.ca/budget. Thanks everyone. Good night.